All right. Well, thank you all for spending your lunchtime with us to go over these resources. Today, we're going to be covering uh, Gale and Context High School and Opposing Viewpoints databases. And we'll be running about 30 minutes. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask before we end, or you can always email us. So before I get started, I just wanted to always remind people of where we get the funds to provide these excellent resources. We currently spend about $1.2 million in conjunction with the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is IMLS. And we also get the counties participating. They get the money through their district property taxes. So you are probably already paying for it, whether you realize it or not. And so we would love you all to take advantage of these resources that are being offered. So you might have some questions of, well, who is this for? Who are these resources for? What are these resources and why are they important? Well, the who in this includes your students or patrons who are in high school or in grade school or elementary school, and also students and librarians and teachers. And what are we going to be looking at? Well, they're called databases, and the databases are a collection of different types of resources, from magazines to articles to scholarly publications to news feeds. We get all sorts of information. And you might ask, well, why is this important? Well, it's important because a lot of students need, and the public need, to understand where they're getting their information from. And when we know it's from a journal or a vetted resource, we know the information can be trusted. And it's part of those critical thinking skills. And in addition, you might say, well, what's wrong with Google or what's wrong with Wikipedia? Well, those are also excellent resources too. I think those are really great starting points, but we all know that, Bob's Burgers can publish an article on how to cure cancer on his website that has not been vetted. Or we also know that Wikipedia can be changed. So students might use those resources as a starting point, but they want to look at these database resources to understand how they got to those conclusions, how they arrived with those arguments, or what supports those articles. So the two resources we're going to be looking at today include Gale's High School Edition, which offers topics within business and economics, geography, government, history, literature, science and health, social issues, and much, much more. And then opposing viewpoints, it covers the hottest social issues from capital punishment, immigration, marijuana, and all those other types of controversial topics. So before we go any further, I just want to note that if you take anything away from this, and I've been saying this in the series of webinars, is remember this acronym, NFL: navigation, full text, and location. Because navigation deals with understanding where to find these resources, not only on your library's website, but how students can get to them from their school websites. How do they get to their local library to find these resources? Or how do they navigate to the state library? And also, how do you navigate within that resource? Another thing to remember is full text. We want to make sure when we're going through this resource that we have clicked full text box, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting that perfect article and that title looks like it has everything you need, and it turns out it's just an index or an abstract and not the full actual article. And then again, location, we want to make sure you understand where on the library's website you can find these resources. So location, location, location. It's applies to real estate. It also applies to these resources, understanding where to locate the resources. So let's go ahead and jump on in. And how I'm going to cover today's webinar is I'm going to first go through some screenshots of the databases, and then as we get towards the end, I'm going to go ahead and jump in live on the content. So we're going to first go over navigating the resources. So navigation. First, I want to point out on the upper left-hand screen is the search box. The search box is very similar to your Google box. You have the little search glass, and below it is the advanced search. So we're going to dip our toes and look at that. On the right-hand side, you have this navigation bar, and it deals with some resources or some functionality that patrons or users can take advantage of, including the browse, list titles, history, links, and how to highlight. Below that is a carousel of different highlighted topics that they've curated for this. So we're going to click, we're going to actually go into that and look at what they do for you, provide for you. Then on the next slide, as we scroll down the screen, again, they've provided some curated or predefined topical areas from biography, government, science, and health. And they've actually created 1,029 topics. Now, that's not all the topics. These are the ones that they've actually kind of, again, they've curated and they've put into these little buckets that make it easier for students and users to find. If you want to type something that's not in there, they will still have articles, journals, and resources that will support that search term. So as we scroll down the screen, I want to highlight one more little resource, and that's called Educator Resources, highlighted in yellow. They have a list of the curriculum standards, and then they also have some educator resources. So once this webinar is over, you're asking, well, I forgot a couple of things. There's some tools and handouts you can look to get some assistance on how to use this resource. So next, I want to go ahead and jump into Galen context opposing viewpoints. Again, the same look and feel on how to navigate this website. You have your typical search box, simple search box. Then you also have the option to do an advanced search. On the right-hand side, you have that same resource bar with browsing issues, title lists, and those other functionalities. And then below, they have a topic of interest, and you can click to the left or to the right to 3 or 4 other defined highlighted areas. And again, as we scroll down the page, you'll notice that they've already curated some issues. In this case, you're going to say, well, there's only 482 issues. Why don't I just point folks, my students or patrons, back to the high school resource? Well, again, these are curated, and these deal more with the controversial things. For example, maybe they've curated a topic on abortion, and they actually have a physical person who goes and creates these categories and puts information in there for students to look at. And opposing viewpoints, I like to look at it as if a student or somebody's looking at the pro and the con of a certain topic, those who are for or against a particular topic. So that's how you might want to think of why you want to use these different resources. And they have different, I guess, original resources in these 2 different databases. For example, in opposing viewpoints, they might have access to one journal, let's say like The Economist, that history, high school does not have access to. So they each have different buckets of resources that sometimes you have to go between both of them to get all the resources that you want for the topic you're looking for. And then finally, if we scroll down the page, you'll see curriculum standards again, some links, and some educator resources. And we're going to be going into how you can access the resources. This deals with the location. Again, location, where are we going to go to get these resources? I've just listed a couple of places that students and patrons can go, not only your local library, but your county libraries also have access to these resources, and the links are provided, and we will be providing this PowerPoint to you. And what I encourage you to do, I always encourage supporting the local library because often they'll have more resources than the state library does. You'll find more books, online books, let's say at the Pinal County Library website. They might have more online magazines or audiobooks, whereas the state library, we provide just the basic package. So I encourage you to go to your local library websites. And finally, I just wanted to point out something before we dive into the resource online. We currently have a special service. It's called AZ LibTap. And up in the right-hand corner, it says Free Tech Help. If you have a struggling student or a patron who wants to know how do I turn on the mirroring feature to my phone? How do I use my technology so I can access the databases? How do I maybe save a link? Well, have them go to this. They will actually fill out a form. They will talk live to a real librarian on how to deal with their tech issues. So that's something we've rolled out. There's no cost, and we encourage you to use it. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go live into the databases. So hold on just one second.
While Mary is switching over, I just want to remind everyone that if you would love to connect with your local librarian, I would be happy to make those connections between the school and the public library. Just reach out to me and I will do an email introduction, and maybe your local librarian could also help you learn more about the resources available near you to your students.
Absolutely. And we're always willing to, if you find that this is really helpful and you're like, maybe my school's folks we should do an in-service, give me a call and I'd be happy to. So we're going to start from the state library's website on how to access these resources. So this is azlibrary.gov, and I've provided the URL to go directly to the resources, which is AZ Library Dazzle. So we're going to click on that, and you can also navigate using the navigation bars on this page, and we're going to be clicking on online reference resources. And this is the page we drop you at. As you scroll down, you'll notice that we have Gale High School in context in two different areas, one for educators, one for the general reference. And as we scroll down below, we have opposing viewpoints. So let's go ahead and start on high school. I'm going to be asked to go to an external link, and I've already logged into this. Normally, I would be prompted to enter a zip code, but since I'm already logged in, I'm still within the time frame. So again, here's our basic search bar. I'm going to go ahead and type in Latinx to do a search to show you what it looks like. And what I get reference resources, videos, academic journals, research essays, biographies, on and on, a whole number of resources. What I want to point you to next is this area where we talked about full text. Full text documents, you would probably most likely want to click that to make sure you get full text results. I'm going to go ahead and click it. Now it's going to automatically update. And for magazines, we went from 40,000 down to 35,000. So that's limiting our searching. We're not going to be looking at a bunch of abstracts or just indexes. We're getting the actual article. You've got some selections over here where you can filter your results. For example, if I was wanting to help students in, let's say, high school, or just maybe freshmen, I can click on this and I can click on level 3, and level 3 is for your middle school up to 8th grade. Level 4 is for high school, and level 5 is for high school and higher, and then level 2 and level 1 are for the lower grades. So you can limit your search by that. You can still search within these 1,000, actually within all these different references. You can sort by publication date, by subject, document type, Lexile. And again, for purposes of time constraints, I'm going to just let you explore that on your own. So let's go back and some navigation things to understand with the databases. You might be tempted to go back using your back button. Sometimes they offer you the option of actually going back to the main screen, but we're going to just go ahead and click. We'll go ahead and click on the back button. It takes us back to these results. Let's go back one more time. We're back to the home screen. Now you can also start off doing an advanced search that has all those boxes, so you don't have to select them after the fact. I'm going to click on advanced search. I can go in and do that search again. I can limit it to the keyword. If I do this pull down, I can make sure it's in the publication title. We can make sure it's a place name. So there's a number of different ways you can focus your search. I'm just going to leave it on keyword. I want to limit it to full text documents. And I can do it by document type. I can say I want abstracts, or I want, let's see, you have a number of different things, brief articles, brief review. So there's a lot of different content types that you can select from. Content level. Again, as we had on that screen, you can also limit it to, let's just say, middle school. And by Lexile, you can further limit it even more. And Lexile measure. I am not an educator, so I'm not familiar with the full detail of those Lexile levels. And then you can also limit it by dates. You can say after, and it'll pop something open. Let's say you want something more current, like after 2000, you could limit it that way. And then you can add rows. I'm just going to click on Gale and Context and go back. This will take me back home to my front page. And then I wanted to focus on these tools over here. You can browse topics, you can get a title list, you can do search history, get links, and then you can also look at your notes. So let's say, for example, I wanted to make notes. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down, click on Cesar Chavez. I'm just going to click on an actual article. And I'm going to go ahead and just highlight this. And now I can add a note. And I could type a note in there. Now understand that if you are not logged in to a Google account or a Microsoft account, these will not save. So every time you leave, all your notes and all your work is going to disappear. You'll also notice that you have a define. It's basically a dictionary. So if I just want to click on decades, I can go to define, and it'll basically give me a definition of what define is. Or decades, I'm sorry, decades. And I'm not seeing it. It looks more like, let me just change that, decade. Normally that should have a dictionary functionality, not a list of different topics. So I'm going to check into that. Let's go back to the main page. I'm just going to click on home. And as I mentioned, you have this scroll function of topics of interest. You can just click through this. And again, these are the predefined areas, and you can also look at all 1,000 topics they've created. And they have tons of topics. And again, just because you don't see your topic in here does not mean they don't have anything related to a topic. For example, I did not notice Netflix in here, and Netflix, the CEO of Netflix has just put out a book, And, there's a lot of history around Netflix. So you can go ahead and do your search in the search box to get to the topics you need. I'm going to click back on home. Let's just go back to Cesar Chavez. Now let's say you have somebody who's a visual learner. I'm going to go ahead, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to go and just do a search. I'm going to do Netflix. And I have 21 references. References along with biographies, images, videos, and on and on and on. Well, I don't want to scroll that way. And I'm more of a visual learner. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to click on full text documents. So I've narrowed my search a little bit more, but I'm going to click on topic finder. So maybe this works for how I do my research for information. So they've put everything visually into this nice little graphic. So if I click on, let's say, Tiger King, I now have a number of results related to Tiger King. And the bigger the tile, the more information. The smaller the tile, there's going to be less information. Let's see. And let me go ahead and click on the wheel. The same information, but just different graphical format. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on CN Online Information Services, and you'll see that it breaks it out, and I can further drill down to get down to the topic I want. So I'm going to go back to home just to show you that this is just one different way of looking at the information. What I did, let me go back really quick. When you have the option to click on this previous page, I encourage you to select that versus the back button, because sometimes the back button does not get you back to where you really want to be, and it can kind of get you lost in your research. So I'm going to go ahead and click on previous page. And I just want to go ahead and show you that the subjects, how it broke it out in those graphical areas. I'm going to click here and let's see. And what they do is they go from the highest number of articles or information down to the lowest. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to see, do they have Tiger King in here? Nope, they don't. But in these smaller, I guess, categories, they will have information relating to Tiger King. That was the one I was looking for in here, but they have a limited number of topics that will fit in here. So you can get the information. You don't lose anything by going to the topic finder or using your normal basic list of information resources. Now I want to go down to the very bottom of the page. Okay, it's not on this screen. To show you the teacher resources. So you want to go to this main home screen, scroll down to the bottom, and you have the resources that I highlight: curriculum standards and educator resources. I am, again, not a teacher, but they do give you a quick list of curriculum standards. I'm going to go to state standards, Arizona, and I can just click on high school and process communication. So here are some resources to help you align with those curriculum standards for Arizona. I'm going to go back. I'm going to scroll down, and now I'm going to look at the educator resources. So you can use these resources when you need help looking for information to help with the databases, to help students. They have tip sheets that you can hand out for students. What I also like is right here, this resource. This will be specifically for the high school. I'm sorry, for Galen Context High School. So when I click on this, This will now take me to content support. I'm sorry, support for this particular database. So you'll see they have Gale in Context, a presentation. They have some lessons and activities related to high school, Gale in Context High School, printable resources, and they have some videos. So when you leave this presentation, please remember this is where you can get those online support resources, or you can always call me.
So those are really great to help students learn to navigate this database themselves, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one thing I did not show off is the citation function of that they provide. You can actually cite an article, and I think it's a great tool, a learning opportunity for students to understand how to cite, because I will guarantee you that the tools that we use in Gale, I'm going to go back home. I'm going to go back to Gale in Context. And just to show you really quick of a citation, I'm going to click on this article, article right here. And I think this is the citation. Go down. Okay, here's the citation. This citation function, you've got the MLA, the APA, Chicago. Sometimes this does not align with those little blue books. These resources are not perfect, but it is a tool where you can copy and paste this into your bibliography. And then they also have exporting these to RefWorks or other bibliography tools. You're probably not going to be using that in grade school, but maybe your upper levels or AP classes might be using that. So we have about 3 minutes left. Do you have any questions regarding these resources? We have a small group, so there might be very few questions. And go ahead, Dawn, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Mary, I really appreciate you sharing all of these great database demos, and we have a few more coming up. Just look at our event calendar to register for future ones. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording unless anyone is dying to be recorded with their questions. Have a great day, but you're welcome to stay on and ask questions.
Thank you all.